Welcome to Power Your Profits podcast, your friendly guide in bringing your business revenue to the next level. Listen as host Susie Carter hears inspiring stories of success from her fellow entrepreneurs and transformational leaders. Prepare to make significant change to your strategies as they unravel the secrets of building multi-million-dollar businesses and the most effective tips on finance, marketing, and sales accountability. If you want to make your first step towards explosive business growth, this is the right podcast for you. Without further ado, here is your host, Susie.
Welcome to Power Your Profit podcast. My name is Susie Carter and I am your profit coach. And today I have Anthony Trucks with us. He's a former foster child. He's an NFL football player, competitor on American Ninja Warrior. He's an author, a life coach, and entrepreneur. From foster care to NFL to successful business owner, Anthony Truck has accomplished what statistics would say is impossible. As a speaker and success coach, Anthony teaches people how to design and build a better life and business by learning how to access their power of identity to tap into their full potential and make shift happen. Welcome to the show, Anthony. Oh my gosh, Anthony, I'm so excited that our tribe and our community gets to meet you. I cut your head off. You got diamonds. You got so much to share with us. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, happy to be here.
You're welcome. So I did your formal bio, but what's your badass list, right? Why should we pay attention to you? What is that thing, your secret sauce that you do, that magic that you do better than anybody else? And kind of share, you get to brag a little bit, Anthony.
Brag a little bit. It's funny. One of the first questions I have on my podcast is if I'm walking around town and you sit down next to me, why should I listen to you? It's the same kind of flow. And people can go anywhere they want with it. But I like the braggadocious. So at the end of the day, I'm a guy who broke my life. I went to the NFL, had a high peak of life, and then came crashed down to the bottom and climbed out of it. The things that I'm really, really oddly good at is I'm able to navigate the internal sense of myself, my identity really, really well, which means taking a look at the things most people won't look at because they actually give you access to the places you want to go. And then I have found a unique way to get to a really great place of like the really beautiful work-life harmony, but still going at peak pace. So I don't burn out, and I don't also fall short of stuff. I get more done than most people do in less time, but I don't do it at the sacrifice of those around me, the relationships I have, or my health. So I got a good flow. I got a good peak kind of pace.
Okay, so how? That's like how? I'm taking notes. So when you see me looking down, I'm taking notes because why I'm a great coach is I'm a good student. So how do you help people, right, do that? Because that's part of your jam and what you do in the world.
Yeah. So look at it as like two areas or two ways to kind of focus on this. One is going to be destination, right? Destination is I'm trying to get people to get to the point of make more money, dropping guilt and overwhelm, because guilt and overwhelm are huge pieces of all this whole process. And then at the same time, I don't get to that far end place I want to get, which is I got great momentum. I'm at peak pace and everything's still moving smooth. So it takes it back to the beginning of, well, there's two parts, an emotional side, and there's also like the structural strategic side of this. How you do it is you have to tap into the emotional side first, because the emotion drives us to solve problems that are usually solved with strategies and techniques and tactics and tools. But the emotional side is most people don't go through any kind of process. They just kind of wing it. Life falls apart. They just survive. So when you ask how, I created a process years ago called the shift method. All of this ties back to you. You are the common denominator in all of your problems. Whether you're the one creating them, right? Or you're the person pretty much letting them endure. You're accepting them and creating and letting them come into your life. And so if you realize that first piece, you go, okay, great. If I'm the common denominator, well, then what can I do? And in some places, you may not have a bunch of power. Some places you have a ton of power. Right. But it starts with the very first piece is emotionally being able to look at yourself and go, I suck here. Right. I suck here. I'm not good here. Now, when we're successful, you're making good money. That's the last thing you want to do. The hardest people to get through to are the ones that have success financially. It's a weird thing in our world where because everything is so, it's so just encapsulated with finances and money that we have this false sense of superiority as a human. Like there are people that they just are bad people, but make good money, or they don't understand, like just because you've got some money doesn't mean you're a great human, right? So it's in between. And so whenever you go to those people and go, look, you're experiencing hardship in your life, you have pain, you got to work on some things for you. The immediate thing they have is this ego wall comes shooting up. No, I'm good. I don't need help with that. I got this. And it's like, whoa, okay, well, cool. If that wall comes up, you get to live in that house you hate.
Yes.
So you get to hang out there and stay there. But it's cool. Like, so the how part of it at first, this method is a C stage. We have 3 stages: C, shift, sustain. The first stage of this is the C stage. It's your ability to take a look at yourself in ways that we'll call self-awareness, but it's a little bit deeper, but actually give yourself this perspective that you don't want to see because it hurts, but you need to see because it'll finally give you the permission you need to improve in a certain area of your life. And so that's one of the first issues, because no matter what, like it could be an area where, maybe you're having issues as a parent, maybe it's an issue in the health. If you won't own up to the fact that maybe you're a poor communicator as a parent, or maybe you're not the most patient, or maybe in your health, you can't stop eating candy bars. Who knows what it is, right? If you don't, you're never going to do the work on that thing, and it'll keep enduring and keep creating more pain. And you won't even notice. It's like the stinking fish in the room. It's like there's a smell, but I keep sweeping up and I keep wiping the walls down, but it still stinks because there's that one thing you're not really focusing on. Is this a novel idea? No, this is not something nobody's heard before. This is actually a very kind of common statement, I believe, but a lot of people will not finally wake up to this damn simple idea. They just don't. And so
I think part of it too is, as we become more accomplished, your ego has to be in play, right? Because that's that fake it till you make it. Then you get that credibility. Then you're not faking anymore, but you have this high ego, and that's what you're talking about. It's hard to get through to that high ego and humble enough as a student to put the ego down, right? To go, because that's part of our success formula is I have this,
Ego's good though. The ego's not a bad thing. Like when I played in the NFL, my ego, here's what the ego does. Ego protects the current identity inside. So this whole thing, this method called the shift method, is to shift you at an identity level. So the things that need to be done that are hard to do, they are so natural to you that they're hard not to do at some point. Just who you are in a flow. But the ego will protect the current identity, bad or good, it protects it. And so when I was playing football, part of my good identity was I was a football player. So my ego said, don't eat that trash, get to workouts on time, study your playbook, recover your body, work hard and practice. That ego, because it wanted to protect the internal identity and be in alignment. But at the same time, when I got out of the NFL and I wanted to start a business, the ego is not in a positive place. Cause it's like, I don't need these plebes helps. They didn't play in the NFL. What do they know? This ego was a bad thing because I'm entering this world 8-10 years behind my peers. They've been in the regular world way longer than me. And my idiot self comes in with this massive ego, and I wouldn't accept the things I needed to know to get better.
I love it. So the interesting thing, right, when I was studying for our call, right, 78% of NFL players go bankrupt or fall into severe financial stress within 2 years of retirement, right? You retired and you picked up a ball in another arena. Talk about how you did that and what made you different, because that's a staggering number. Like
I was close to it.
You were close to it, yeah. So did the ego crush them? Was it just like they had no other life purpose? What do you think is?
That's a good one. This is one that I have speculation as to what it is. I have no definitive facts. I'm going to talk from a position.
But you kind of have an insider scoop on the speculation. So I would respect your insight more than my insight.
Yeah. Well, I think what happens, so I got done and I opened a gym business and I didn't want anybody's help. And no one could tell me what to do. So within 9 months, I was looking at bankruptcy. I was looking at my lease pretty much, being not fulfilled. So they're going to sue me and have to obviously, file bankruptcy. I couldn't afford paying up front this 4-year lease I just signed for a commercial location. So I'm like, I'm falling into that trap pretty quick. Now, thankfully, I figured it out. And I had some great mentors kind of pop in. But this is one of the things. Whenever you look at the athletes, when we come from that world, we are put on massive pedestals. Yeah. We're on the TV where you're asking for my autograph. Look at me. Companies are paying me money to show their stuff. I got dinner once a week, easily, if not more, to just go and sit with some guy and talk about his financial, investment company because they wanted to be a financial advisor of mine. So I'm eating these massive, amazing steaks once a week just because I was on the team, And so it's this weird thing where the reality is like you're seen as, so when you leave the game, you still have that feeling. I'm great. I'm awesome. I'm great. So when people want to give you help, you're like, what have you done? You didn't play in the NFL. Who are you? Right. And I think part of it is we don't want to go back to the regular human level. So the ego gets into a position where it says, I'm not going to do what regular humans do. I'm going to let my money make me money. Mm-hmm. And so what a lot of guys do is they live the lifestyle still because they want to have that notoriety and that sense of I'm great. So they keep spending money when they don't got it coming in. Second part of it is they want to go and be investors, but there are people who are investors that aren't good investors.
Yeah.
You're not an investor. You just have money. So it's not wise to invest money. We have no idea how. There's a guy named Raghib Ishmael, and I don't know him personally. And this is a story I heard. I want to say he had like 120 million in the bank or some ridiculous number, but he had made such poor investments. He was extended like to 200 million.
Right.
So with 100+ million in the bank, you're still bankrupt, have to file bankruptcy. Couldn't pay their debts. Right. So it's weird when you start looking at why these guys go bankrupt. I believe they end up just not having a perspective of the fact that they are regular humans when they're done with the game. You are just a person. What helped me when I came home was I was only 9 months away from removing the ego. I had got to a really tough spot financially. Family wasn't doing well because I couldn't pay the bills. And I eventually put everything down and said, all right, I'm obviously not doing this thing right. I don't know anything about this. How about I do what I did to get me to the highest level in the world for my sport of football, which was get somebody who was a coach, a guidance person, a mentor. Because what's interesting is, my coach, he couldn't do what I could do in the field.
Right.
Most people's coaches always got to be someone that's in above where you're at. And I'm like, well, there's a lot of people that are billionaires with coaches who don't make billions of dollars. How does that happen? Does a Rolls Royce salesman own a Rolls Royce? Probably not, right? There are people who are experts on something that don't own the thing that they're trying to be an expert on. They haven't excelled in that area. And what I found was I had not taken into account the fact that when I played football, my coach was good at being able to see more than I could. I could see what was right in front of me. I could see what's right here, what's going on. Whereas he could see the entire field. And that's the difference. So when I stepped back, I was like, all right, I got to figure this out. I just hired someone who knew more about this area that could see the field in ways I couldn't.
Yeah. Well, that happened to me when I sold my business for millions, right? We sold it for 10 million. And all of a sudden my identity was lost, right? Because all of a sudden I didn't have this thing that was my, I was the icon. I would walk in the room, everybody would know me. And then all of a sudden I walk in the room like, who are you? And I'm like,
yeah, the conversation.
Like, what? I'm Susie Carter. They're like, and who's that? Very humbling.
Very humbling. That's all things. What's interesting is you say in a way that is different. Like for most football players, that's also a big piece of it. We lose our identity and we don't know how to fill it back up. So we have this existential vacuum sucking things in to fill this gaping hole we can't figure out how to fill. And so whenever it happens, and it will happen for some reason for everybody, but there will be a day when you wake up and either by choice, right, you sold your business, or by chance, I lost my career to an injury. You can no longer do the thing you were meant to do or you were doing before.
Right.
And the interesting thing is, as humans, we are built to be in motion. We don't have a lot of fun sitting still. Like I prefer putting the puzzle together than I do staring at the finished puzzle.
Right.
Natural thing.
The minute you put it together, you usually just break it all apart and put it in the box. Like, okay, I did it. Been there, done that.
Do it again. Exactly. So whenever we're moving towards something and we wake up and we can't move in the same direction, or we don't know if we're moving in a direction that's worthwhile, you get that big hole, that crisis. And that's a tough place to be for anybody. So whether you've made a bunch of money and you sold something, you got money, it's like, all right, I got money, but I'm not happy. That's a sucky place. So it's kind of the thing where that identity shift thing that I talk about, that's a heavy piece of it. Is how do I proactively, or in the middle of a shift, manage this properly so I don't go falling off a cliff?
And how do you help people manage a shift, right? Because it's easy to say, right? All this is so easy to say, and it's not anything new, but the distinction is actually having somebody do it, right? That's my success, not what I'm teaching. It's when you finally do it, you master your money, right? You're looking at who you're being, your accountability, what you're not doing, what you're sabotaging. So how do you help people make that shift and make the shift happen?
Well, the first part's the C stage you talked about. It's the first part of it. The second part is actually the answer to the question you're asking. So once you got an idea of what I got to work on, for you, it could have been like, I got to work on finding another purpose for these idle hands. For some people, I got to find a way to fix the marriage because I'm going to work and I do a lot of work, but I know that when I get home, it's going to be an argument because I'm doing too much work and there's not presence at home, right? Or the kids don't feel like they're present with their parent, whatever it might be. So the other part's the shift. And the shift stage has three kind of distinct segments of it. It's one point of it is say, I need to look at what is the thing I want to shift into. Not so much what do I got to do? Because a lot of us are quick to find out what I got to read, what I do.
Right.
But even if I had you read that stuff, would it be your stuff to do? I don't know. Right. So, and where are you going? So most people don't redefine a vivid vision. They don't clarify the destination they want to get to. They start working towards stuff because Bob or Susan said to go buy a treadmill. And then you're like, I don't even like running, right? Well, why did you buy a treadmill? You just took an action and it had nothing to do with where you wanted to go. Right. So the idea is first to figure out where do I want to go? The other part of it's who do I have to be to get there? That's the thing that few people understand has got them success in the first place is you became someone along the way. That person you became got what you have. If you weren't that person, you wouldn't have what you have. It's pretty straightforward that way. So now that I know where I want to go, it's going to be different. I got to say, am I the person now? And if I'm not, who do I have to become? And becoming is a rooted core thing, like where I feel like it's who I am to do that thing. And that's typically going to be taking out of character actions, which goes to the shift plan, the third stage of this. I know where I'm going to go. I know I got to become. I now have to have a plan in place to wake up every day and operate in a manner that feels out of character now. But over time, the more I do it and refine it and get better and fail and succeed, that one day I wake up and I look back and go, I don't know exactly what day or what time, what minute, but at some point that became who I was. So that whenever I look at this thing, it was hard to do. It was hard to spend time with my kids when I wanted to go to work, but I carved out the hour for them to be focused. It was hard to get to the gym when I knew I wanted to just go home and sit down because I had a long day. It was hard to apologize to my spouse when I knew I messed up. It was hard to do that. But now I can't go to sleep unless I do those things.
Right.
Like that, get to that plan in place to where if followed enough, you actually get to that point of waking up as that person. So I help people go through each of those things. I dig in and say, okay, well, where do you want to go? What have you got? What excites you? What are you scared of? Where do you want to go? Okay, who do you have to be to get there? Let's take a look and we research the people in the world that are maybe have that thing or you see may have some pieces of that thing and go, okay, great. Now, what are they doing or what must you do? And we start looking at the habits in place because the habits, obviously what you do becomes who you are in time. A lot of the habits, the big actions, the affirmation stuff you do, and a lot of that comes to also that work-life harmony.
Yep.
Because for me, if part of who you are isn't saying, I'm going to place these things on two distinct pedestals and have them equal, then you won't become that person. You'll be the same person you were with the same stressful situation, just in a different arena. So the idea is factoring these things in, and then we go, great, we now have it. Let's put it into work. That's the third stage, which we call the sustain stage, which is all about drive, hive, and thrive and getting into motion and having a disciplined system. And pretty much people who are successful, they have some good systems already. It's really, for the most part, natural to be able to, I'm going to lock myself away. I'm going to get focused. they're really good in that flow. But now all we're doing is saying, we just gave you a different direction in that shift stage to put that flow into action.
So how important is community, right? Because you've overcome a ton of adversity, right? When you look at foster kid to NFL to competing on American Ninja, like you've done some big stuff, an author, like so many people. I think there's the statistic, the last I read was 70% of people want to be authors. And out of those 70% that do it, only 10% actually do. It's a big lift. And so when you look at that, how important is the community? And then two, talk about that journey, because you made a decision as a kid, right? Because that can be a tumultuous background. That cannot be fun, right? And it could also be your superpower, right? Because you had to go through what you went through.
I think a lot of who I am and all of us ties to our childhood in some way. And the things we learn, dynamics that become like staples of our persona and our identity, even now, right? I was given away as a kid in foster care, grew up in an all-white family, really poor, wasn't even adopted for 11 years at the age of 14. So a lot of weird, like, who am I? Where do I fit? Like, what's my base? Didn't have it for a lot of years. Tried something new, wasn't very good. Eventually got really good, got a scholarship to play football, progressed on in the NFL, lost a career in the NFL. And then from there had a really dark bottom, divorced, 3 kids, ex-wife, business not doing very well, out of shape, and then turning it all around after my mom passed away. So I've lived a lot of life's journeys in weird ways that I would say I wish I hadn't, but I also wish I did, because at the same time, like I learned so very much about life. But I think the thing for me is all these things had a purpose in ways I didn't quite comprehend. I think that was the biggest thing, is like you look back at it and you go, man, I hated this stuff, but damn, was it good and useful for now? Like it's all this place where it fits. And I just lost your question. What was the very first question you asked before I led into that? Just so I make sure I'm going.
One was community, and then how did you get to adversity?
Yeah. So every level of my life always had a human being involved in some capacity. I was able to show me things I didn't want to see and whether it's my coaches or my spouse or my kids, whatever it was. And in those moments, if you respect those people, they'll give you some things. I believe that we have to have two things in order to have any kind of success. I believe it's people and process, 100% people and process. Because when you have those situations, if I'm emotionally not there, you ask how to get through it. Well, I need to go around people and borrow their joy, specifically borrow their joy. Because when I'm in a bad mood around good people, they don't let me stay in a bad mood.
Right. Or borrow your belief, right? Borrow my belief about you or who you are. Like that's carried me through some of the hardest times is, are you forgetting who you are? Apparently I am, because I feel like a loser right now.
Yeah. Right. And it lifts you, and we need that sometimes. We're built for connection, for interaction. I mean, the fact that I can sit here with a weird thought in my brain, it sends a signal to the rest of my body to vibrate air out of my mouth, to go into a microphone, to go to your ears, and you hear it in real time. That's not accidental, So we have to have people. But then the biggest thing is, I think if you say, how do we get out of problems? I can be around you all day long and be joyful. But then if I go home and I have no marching orders, I'm going to feel the same way pretty quickly after. So you have to have a process. And so it's like the way our whole company is set up is we give people, right, coaching and groups and communities and process. Here's our method to walk through this to get there. Not this trial and error, like follow this thing works. You'll wake up one day having your life in a great harmony while still getting a whole crap load of stuff done. But the idea is, if you don't have both, you can't do with just one. If I have process but no people, I'll work myself to the bone. I'll burn relationships up. I'll at some point not have accountability. I'll let myself down, because we could do that pretty easily, right? So it's kind of tough without people. And then for me, like if I look at every stage of my life, that's the only things that got me out. Whenever I had my gym business was failing in the very beginning before I sold it like way later, I had this thing in place, but I was like, man, this sucks, because like I'm not getting anything done. So I need to get to a mastermind. And in the mastermind group, the guys taught me like, hey, here's how to do it. But I had a whole group of people also guiding me on how to do it. So like that community, that humongous like lift when I needed was paramount to success. And happened in football. I have a whole team around me. Happened in my marriage, my friendships, and like following guidance from a counselor. Like all these things have been part of my life. And so, yes, community, people are huge in terms of having any kind of success at a nominal level.
Well, and I think people have to find the people that have the credibility. I think so many people just blindly go, oh, here's this person I'm going to follow them. Do your due diligence, right? Do they have, I think you learn just as much in the failure. Yes, I sold my business for millions, but I also lost millions. And in both of them were great learning experiences. I like when I made the millions, not lost the millions. That one's a better learning lesson. You have to make sure people have that credibility, right? When you look at, there's a lot of people telling you what to do, but have they earned the right? When I look at your bio, I look at what you've accomplished. I look at all the things from having that physical discipline, the mental discipline, right? The commitment to cleaning your junk up, right? That's powerful just inside itself.
It's not easy. Yeah. But then it can actually, I tell people you should not be telling anybody how to run the race until you've crossed the finish line.
Yeah,
I can be.
Okay, amen for that, my brother. Amen for that.
You gotta get proven, because what if you're guiding people to make the left turn you just made, and then you find out later like, oh, should have went right. You should probably get through it all and then turn around and go, okay, this is what I did. This is where I would have made an adjustment and a change. And having the ability to drop your ego enough to admit those things, right? That's work most people aren't willing to do just yet.
So you dropped something that I just want to go back to, and you dropped that you were in the foster care with a white family, right? Being raised by a white family. How much did that shape you, right? Because I've raised 2 African-American daughters, and the biggest challenge when they got to be women was like, who am I now? Right. My daughter went to Harvard and she got into all these African-American studies. I'm like, babe, you're really getting into your culture. She goes, Mom, I'm a Black woman. And especially on the East Coast, I am a Black woman. In California, I could be anything. And so just, now I raised them to be very aware of their culture. And, I can be a lot of things, but I can't be a powerful Black woman. So I got community to help me. And I realized that strong foundation. And when you're in that environment to go, how much did that shape you? Because that's delicious, right? Because people just see a package and go, they judge. Oh, here's this package. Handsome, athletic, successul, happy marriage. You don't see, right? Here's what that.
No, you don't see the dirt.
Because we dust that dirt off and make it look good.
I think there's a lot of joy that I hold inside because of where I could be in life. And so you
Yes.
obviously,
Oh,
so
wait, say that again. Say that again. Come on, Anthony. That was diamond right there.
I have a lot of joy inside because of where I could be in life. And I'm not, that I'm actually obviously not in life. And you know, what's funny is every time people ask that question, I go, I don't know anybody who's like super happy, joyful, got it together for the most part, that didn't have some crazy, dark, hard story.
Right.
So people, I think the ones who look at me and go, oh, he's got it all together, life must have been easy. Those are the people who haven't hit their darkness yet.
Right.
Because once you've gone through it, you recognize it. Like I know for sure the levels of success, even people that are settled inside, like I can't be around people very often or too long that aren't settled inside, meaning they've gone through something at a certain level to where they have a patience and a peace to them to where I can sit in a room with you and you don't have to talk to me and it's okay.
Right.
Like I can sit here, we can watch a TV screen and we're at peace. The person has to ask me questions and talk to me all day. And they go, I'm like, dude, settle down. Like I don't know what's going on there, but like be at peace. Like those people, those are the ones who asked, man, how did I wouldn't even notice you got all this stuff put together. Life seems good. It must've been always good. I'm like, no, it wasn't. But people who have that kind of at a certain level, they've been there. They get it. Like I'd get you. I'm sure we could talk and share stories. We probably could.
Well, I call it like our stripes or our general stripes or badges, whatever it is. Like when you're first sued as a business owner, you're bawling and then you realize that's part of business, right? If you're going to play big, there's going to be fallout.
Success tax. Yeah.
Exactly. So what do you see working with clients, right? What do you see that's really holding them back? What holds them back?
Kind of touched on it. Well, there's a couple things. I think one of the most important will be the ego. The clients I work with are people that are at a fairly successful level. They're doing, 8 figures usually and above, or they're in big companies where they're entrepreneurs and companies that are doing $250 million in their business. Right. And so what ends up happening is they're the head. And so the head never likes to get hit. Right. The head never likes to take an action or take the ego hit. So what happens is the hardest part for me is them getting to the point where when like they'll start and go, I know I'm not perfect. I'm ready to do the work. Sounds good. The moment we find a point where they're not perfect, all of a sudden the wall goes up. I don't know. I'm good. I got this. I got this figured out. I don't need any help right there. Like, no, that's wrong. And I'm like, all right, we're just going to sit back. You let me know when you're ready to actually have me be the coach you hired me for. So the beginning is, can you pause and realize that when someone points an issue out or something you're not perfect at, it does not take away from all the amazingness that you are or success you've already had. In fact, this is a gift to you. The people who are in your life who are willing to give you the insight that you need to improve are a gift. And when you can't take it, when you rear up and bite people's heads off, you're only hurting yourself, because that person is now not going to give you the gold that you need to we'll call it the map, the treasure map to the gold you seek. Because a treasure map for a lot of us is that. There's a statement I love, and it goes, it is hard to see the label when you are inside of the jar. Mm. When I'm in the jar, I don't know the label says poor communicator, pessimistic, gets mad too angry, too quickly, womanizer, whatever maybe. I don't know that. So I just do my thing. And I wonder, why can't I hit the next tier? Well, the thing you got to work on is the label you can't see. And the people outside who can see it are trying to tell you what it says. And you keep putting your fingers in your ear and yelling out loud, I don't need that, and trying to cut them off. Right. So then, eventually they're going to turn around, they're going to walk away, and you'll never know the label. So for me, the majority of clients I work with in the beginning, it's that ego thing. And it's not that they're trying to be egotistical or trying to be abrasive, but the moment that I point that thing out in that emotional second right there, they go to their go-to, which is cloud it off, put the wall up. We've been trained to do that almost all of our lives. That's the biggest issue in the beginning.
Yeah, that's a protect and defend, right? I'm going to protect it.
That's
I'm going to defend it because it's worked for us in a lot of different ways, right? Mm-hmm. So I still have people that follow me that are still in denial about, where the economy is and the pandemic. What's been your secret sauce? Because so many people are still struggling. The last statistic was 60% of small businesses have gone out of business because of the pandemic. Wow. Right. We've thrived, we've doubled, we've grown, we've done, So what's been your secret sauce to stay in action and keep growing?
Well, think about what was taken away. What was taken away is interaction. There's I heard about this story recently where there was this company that came in and they were helping, I think, a third world country. Women would walk like a mile a day to go and wash clothes and get water and that kind of stuff. And so what this company just came in and gave them, like at their home, these, water purifiers, and said, they didn't have to go anywhere, they didn't have to walk anywhere anymore. Depression rates went through the roof. And the reason is because, well, they didn't have human connection anymore. They didn't walk and talk and interact and share and have fun for the whole day there. They would sit at home and the task was like done and they just didn't know what to do. And so I take that and I tie it to what we're doing now. We were devoid of human interaction. We didn't connect as much. It wasn't the typical at the coffee shop like we're used to doing. It wasn't the street, it wasn't the doctor's office. It wasn't at work. It wasn't any of that. It wasn't at events or at meetings or at retreats. We just were tucked away. And so what I kind of did, what I think was, I think was wise. I'm glad I did this. It was hard. It was a lot of emotional work, but I did it as I decided I'm never going to say no to a podcast. Anybody wants to talk to me, I'm going to talk to them. I'm not traveling as much, right? I'm not going on stages anymore. So I might as well talk to people. I'm not going to be going. So I can just talk to you here as opposed at the event. And on top of that, I was very proactive with like, if you know someone that would be cool to talk to, let me know, just to chat with them. Right. So I gave what people were having taken away, which is human interaction. And in doing so, it made the brand have more awareness. It allowed me to refine the messaging of what I talked about and helped me refine to a level of niching down, because also niche. I don't know what people use. Niche. I hate that word. I never know what it's like. What most people did is they didn't realize that the entire world now went to the same playing field, where it used to be media and social media. And then you had people doing retreats and live events and we're in person. Everybody was now taken back to have to be online. So if I'm online and I'm not crystal clear with my messaging, I will get lost in the shuffle, get lost in the crowd noise. So talking to people on podcasts, having conversations allowed me to see what did their ears perk up to? What did they ask me questions about before? The beginning of this, I talked about having that perfect work-life harmony at peak pace. And you said, oh, tell me more. Mm-hmm. That little thing, right? And it sounds simple, but that was figured out through these conversations of like, oh, that's something that people actually desire. It's what I do in my own life anyways. That's a benefit to the world. Let's talk about that. So the more you lead in, that's how the business grew. It wasn't to where I was freaking out like, all right, I'm going to ride this thing out. Then I'm going to go back. No, I'm going to find a way to get on top of the ship and ride this thing better than anybody else is. So that was the thing for me, was human connection, because it was being removed.
Amen. So what's one thing, looking back at your life, Anthony, you want to be remembered for?
Remembered for, that's a good question. I don't know if I have a definitive answer. I feel like it changes every year. I want to be remembered for being the guy that people didn't think could exist. Mm. In a sense of, I love the statement of what you do in the dark comes with a light. So I don't do dumb things in the dark. I have all the reasons to have done dumb things. Statistically, if you look at any prison in America, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids like me, half our homeless population, less than 1% of us graduate from college. I came from a divorced family, as did my wife. We were divorced for 3 years, got remarried, have a great marriage now. My kids have a present father. I get to speak and talk and coach. I get to do cool things. And I don't look like, if you saw me walking on the street and never knew me and looked at me, there's definitely a level of assumptions you might have about who I am. 9 times out of 10, I'm wearing athletic clothes. So I look like just an athlete. And I put these shirts on because I do podcasts and I got to look nice, right? But most of the time I live in a way where I meet a lot of people and they go, I had no idea that you kind of like, that you, this kind of thing existed, or like, I didn't know about this idea. Like, I love that you shared this, or the things that I share about my life that most people won't even divulge or share. So I like to live my life in a space of peace at doing things that would make people freak out. And that's how I live my life. So if I'm remembered for something, it'd be being the guy that did and said the things that most people would never think someone could do.
So let's talk about your book, because you make it available, right, for us to really shift our identity. So talk about your book, and, you have a gift for us, which is awesome and generous. So what are people going to get when they jump in?
So what I did is I took this concept of identity shifts. And now let's be honest, nobody in their life woke up and said, you know what, today I want to have an identity shift. No one in the history of ever just yet. Maybe in like 5-10 years when I got this thing moving. But the concept has been something I've worked with for years. And the book was the next kind of evolution after having these conversations. It was actually an accidental publishing. I wasn't even seeking a publisher. Conversations happened around the concept and someone's like, I want to publish this. I was like, let's do it. So the book became 2 parts. One part is concept, to really understand the purpose and the benefit at an immense level of identity, where it fits in, how it silently controls our life. The other part is understanding, how do I control this thing that's controlling my life? Because most people have no control over it, don't understand it, no idea how to navigate or shift it. So in our shift method, we do that. So I put the shift method in the book so you can walk through and do it. And then some people go, okay, great. Well, I'm gonna get the book. I don't want to read it. Cool. I got audio book. I sat and recorded this thing, had it all mastered, everything. There's an audio book. If you go to identityshiftbook.com, follow the steps. Step 1, buy the book, bring the receipt back. Step 2, the receipt, copy that. Step 3, click the button, and then go to the next page and put the code live in there. If you put the code live in, you get the audio book for free. You get the digital book. So it's like, if you don't have the paper book, you want to read it while you're on the train, cool, pull your phone out. It's right there in front of you. And then the third thing is a workbook. It's a $97 workbook. We give it for free. It allows you to do the work that you see in the book. Is it all of our stuff? No, I can't put all of it. It's just vastly too much. But if you're able to go to the base of that, it will definitively make a change for this next year for you, or anytime you choose to do it. The cool thing is it's not some harebrained, crazy scheme. It ties in neuroscience, ties in psychology, but it's human-based, which means it's not predicated on the here and the now and some new technology. If you're a human and you have an identity and you want to accomplish something greater, or you want to be in better harmony, an identity shift will help you get there. And this book shows you how.
Well, and I love it. You're the walking, breathing example, right? So thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your generosity. What I can't give people back is their time, and you have poured into us. So I appreciate you. And so where can we find you? So we got the identity shifts. Where else can we find you?
If you go to
social.
If you go to Instagram, and that's the place I primarily live, is just at Anthony Trucks. It's, I think there's 1 or 2 fake accounts that pop up every once in a while, but the one that you see more activity on are my face and stories. That's the one you want to follow.
Awesome. So make sure you follow him, like him. If this podcast has made a difference for you, please share it with your friends. Somebody needs to hear this message right now. And so, Anthony, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for being the brother in the journey. Thank you for being a leader. You're an amazing man, an amazing contributor to the humanity. And thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Very welcome as well.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Power Your Profits podcast. Let these building blocks from today's most successful industry leaders equip you with the necessary resources and tools to finally establish the highly profitable business of your dreams. Want to hear more? Listen to more episodes at https://poweryourprofitspodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the show. Now is your time to rise to the top of your game, so be sure to catch our next episode. Until next time.